Welcome to another episode of Academic Misfits. I am thankful to be back after my injury. I'm still getting back into the flow, so thank you for your patience. This episode, we have Catrina Mitchum, who is from the US and talks about her experience in developing her own business and still kind of keeping a foot in academia. So I know a lot of you out there have been contacting me that you are in the same boat. You're thinking about leaving or perhaps just staying because you like some of the things that are in academia, but you'd like to supplement your income, build your reputation outside of academia. So this was a really good conversation with Catrina. We met several years ago, I think, when I was first starting my business, and we met through a mutual coach. And so, yeah, I think it would be, it's an interesting conversation, as well as, this academic misfits really about the way that people kind of, roller skate on the edge is what I call it. People who don't fit into the structures, into the systems. And it's akin to other episodes that I've done with people where they'd experienced a lot of bias and oppression. People who were single mothers by choice, for example. If you want to check out that episode, I've looked at experiences of LGBTQ plus, everything like that. And so and even people who have made it in academia have found a lot of those issues to be difficult. Yeah. So, this isn't a podcast to really look at how to leave, although we do talk about how people left. So I think there's some, aspects to glean from that. But I'm hoping that this instigates wider conversations around the way that academia supports people or doesn't, and who it supports. And then wider than that, I think having people understand their place within academia so that they don't feel like they're alone in their experiences, and have ideas about ways to navigate or recover from the academic experience. So I hope you enjoy this one. But yeah, I think we outline a lot of the structural issues that led to her creating something that led to more kind of flexibility in her working environment so that she could work how she needed to work. And so I hope that you enjoy the episode. I'm so thankful for you. And I hope that if you're in academia, you're nearing the end of your marking, grading, whatever you call it across the world. And I hope that you get to enjoy some summertime and get to reflect. Use these episodes as a time to reflect on what is your priority moving forward. Great. Thank you so much for coming on this Academic Misfits podcast, Catrina Mitchum. I'm so happy to have you. And we're on video. I hope you're okay with that. I know when we did yours, it was audio only.
I show up the same no matter what, but at least this time I'm wearing a bra.
Me too. And I look like your background. I have this.
You too.
I have an orange stripe, but going in horizontal rather than verticals. So I'm so happy to have you because we've met long ago and this has been a long time coming. We keep DMing each other, but never going, hey, do we want to collab on something? So this is great. Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So we're going to go ahead and get started, everyone, because I was on Catrina. I just want to start off saying, check out Catrina's podcast. What's the name of it?
Course Creation Crap.
Oh, I love it. So I was on talking about all of the courses that I've developed in terms of like CV help and things like that. And it was so useful. And I can't wait to get started with it. I have so many ideas. We're not going to go into that, but do check out her podcast because I love the way that you organically bring in information for people. And I think like we're going to talk about some skills that you have. And I think a lot of that's going to come out as well. So how did you get into academia? Was it an intentional thing? Like, did you start out going, I want to be an academic?
Absolutely freaking not. In fact, so I was an English major in undergrad in lit, and I was one of like three people that didn't get a degree, a dual degree in teaching. Like I
Oh,
just
wow.
graduated with a degree in lit. And then I went and worked for a printer, a small printer, and learned all the things Adobe, right?
Oh,
Like
wow.
back when we still got them on discs. I think it was like Creative Suite 2 or 3, some like early.
Wow.
And so after that, I had gotten a job doing document design and I loved it. So I went back to school for a master's in professional and technical writing.
Mm.
And then I took a class that was required on the teaching of writing. And then I made the mistake of going ahead and teaching a community college class, like a developmental writing class, and I absolutely loved it. I did not expect to enjoy it that much. And so, really, I got into academia because I like teaching adults.
Oh, wow. So how
And
was that way after you'd finished your degree? Like how old were you? Were you in your kind of like mid-20s?
so well, no, that's a lot of math. I
Okay.
said writing and English. No, I'm just kidding. I was 24 when I
Okay.
taught my first community college class. I was like the youngest person in community college. I was the youngest person in the room.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I hadn't even finished. So I was in the last semester of my master's, and my program let me do it as an internship,
Mm.
which was super cool.
Wow. So then how did you, so you fell in love with the teaching part of it
Mhm.
and you were thinking, how do I do more teaching of adults?
I was thinking, how do I learn how to do this better? And
Ooh.
so it was the drive of curiosity,
Yeah.
especially for my students who didn't make it through the
Mm.
class, because we always have those, right? No
Mm.
matter how hard we try. And so, really, that how can I do this better for the students has been the driver since the very beginning. And in academia, you do that through research. So, most of my research has been classroom based
Oh, wow.
research.
Yeah.
Um, a big thing for me in shifting from in person to online was my spouse was in the Coast Guard. And so we moved every 2.8 years. And so I moved online in 2009. And then in 2010, it was online only. So I was teaching for lots of different schools at the
Mm.
same time. Decided to get my PhD because you get paid more. And also, it made me carve out the space to do the classroom based research
Mm.
in ways that just teaching wasn't giving me the space and time to do.
Yeah.
Um, and the rest, as they say, is kind of history.
Yeah.
After I graduated, I got a full time online gig. COVID landed me in an administrative position
Mm.
because things were chaotic in
Yeah.
academia, as you know.
So what departments were you in during those phases? Like what, what field did you, because it sounds like it crosses over a couple of fields.
It does. It does. So, because of my actual degree is in English with a concentration in rhetoric, writing studies, and digital studies. And so that's kind of like the nexus of teaching writing online. And so I took courses, I was able to take courses in instructional design, and I got all the certifications and all that kind of stuff. But also because professional technical writing is such a broad, like, we're everywhere.
Yeah.
I got to teach classes like in nursing in one of the schools that I was in. I was in the nursing program, but teaching writing in nursing.
Right.
I've taught science writing, I've taught scientific writing, business writing, like whatever, right? And that
Yeah.
rhetoric piece of my degree is the thing that lets me see all the different places and how to adjust the type of writing to the situation or the context.
Mm. Wow, it's really interesting because I don't know if you know Liz Angeli, one of my old clients, but I think she's I interviewed her in December for the podcast. And so she did a lot of technical writing instruction for organizations and created templates on like how to write and stuff like that. But she comes from it from a a subject area of discernment, which sounds very, in terms of like, it's almost a spiritual component of what you're talking about, of that kind of like knowledge and awareness, that they're both
Mhm.
ways of understanding the world, our experiences, and writing
Yeah.
about it. It's really interesting. I love like doing this. Um, so so yeah, you were doing like multidisciplinary work. I think a lot of the people that I met that were kind of like you, and also I'm kind of like that as well. I started to do a lot of like
Mhm.
education based research. Were usually in administrative areas such as
Yeah.
learning. I don't know what they called it in my university. I can't remember, but it was like learning technologies
Mhm.
and other,
Mhm.
things like that. And also government work within that as well, like learning technology. So, yeah, how did it come to be that you came from one area to then being in the more administrative? Would you call that in the kind of staff area?
It was an admin faculty position. So
Okay.
writing programs, especially at larger institutions, tend to be their own entities.
Hmm.
Like we were in the English department, but also functioned separately. And so we have administrative faculty and staff. And so I had stepped into do a position where I was the director of online writing, um, temporary director of online writing because things were chaos, and I didn't even live in the state, and so that's probably a whole different podcast episode. um, but yeah, that's how it happened. It's because I was already doing helping with the
Hmm.
work because the work in that position was designing and building courses for other people to teach
Hmm.
because we worked from a pre-designed course in our online courses. And so it was doing that in a way where our instructors still had agency and knew where to put themselves in the course and had choices, and trying to make it a space where it's not like top down, thou shalt.
Hmm.
I mean, curricular alignment, yes, but also this is how you can make it your own without giving them the burden of all the hours you need to spend in order to do an online course well.
Yeah. And so I guess like people could be, this podcast is about how people kind of find their way and be unique to themselves. Um, and how academia sometimes doesn't allow for people who don't have the round shape, and they don't fit in the square hole or the other way around. So, and that might be because of your life circumstances. It could be, like disability. It could be, like it could be. I had one person who was talking about being a single mother by choice. Could be, all different reasons. But one of them could be like multidisciplinarity, but, in that you don't really fit into any one. But how do you, yeah, does any of that resonate? Like, how do you feel the misfitting as you've been in different places?
Yes, and
Mm.
that's how I feel about it. I
Mm.
think all of those things, right? So when I was trying to decide whether or not to go back for the PhD, my advisor had said that if I wanted to have a tenure track position, that I needed to be willing to separate from my family because they were going to be told where to live, and then I would have to go somewhere else for whatever open tenure track positions existed.
Mm.
And so in that moment, I was like, okay, well, I guess that choice is off the table because that's not something I wanted to do. And interestingly, I feel like that is what led me to where I am because all of those choices, teaching at all of those different institutions, being in all of those different learning management systems, getting all of the training to do the QM reviews and be able to build and review courses and really see what the learning experience is in an online course easily. I don't know that I would have been able to do that if I had, decided, okay, well, that's where the tenure track job is. They're going to make me teach in person.
Yeah.
Which, looking back, I'm like, oh gosh, how did I ever do that? I think it sounds miserable. Um, But yeah, I think that was probably a really big spot that I didn't fit in. That it's like, whew, I'm so glad I didn't fit in.
Yeah. Or like
But
you
a lot,
innovated as well. Like you have to innovate your own way of fitting by being
yes,
in digital
yeah,
spaces way before everybody had to go on Zoom, for
yes,
example.
yeah. And my degree program was high flex when I joined it in 2007. So they were already ahead of the game in terms of digital and distance learning. So I feel
Mm.
like that was an advantage.
Yes.
Um,
So they saw the
I
value of your skills right away. Mm.
yeah, yeah, that was where I got my PhD, and so they did things like let me go take courses outside of my programmatic unit, so I could get the experience and the courses in instructional design, and be able to do what I wanted to. I like following what I'm interested in is really how I've gotten where I am. I also feel like another place that I didn't quite fit in was just my background, right? I'm the
Mm.
oldest of 7 kids, like, I was a scholarship kid. And I also felt like I wasn't a very good writer and then turned around and got multiple degrees in writing because I wanted to improve it, right? I didn't pick the thing that felt the easiest,
Mm.
and that has always seemed like, "Oh, well, why not?"
Yeah. I mean, like, are you kind of motivated by that? Like, if somebody tells you you're not good at it, you're like, I'm gonna go like show
Yeah.
you.
Um I don't know if it's that. I think it's come from a drive of curiosity and being like,
Mm.
okay, well, if I'm not good at this, how do I get good at it?
Mm. Yeah, like a puzzle to be solved.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And so
Puzzles.
have there been any skills that you now realize are really helpful then? I mean, you've kind of alluded to that in terms of your the digital skills and things like that, but like it sounds like the skills that your supervisor said you needed was like a coldness about your family, um, a willingness to go where you're told, and what I guess can be a bad word, resilience.
Yeah, I feel like probably a skill that isn't seen is and don't tell my current supervisor this, I ask forgiveness and not permission.
Mm.
So things like I am always going to make the choice that is better for the student in my classroom. Right. I
Mm.
still adjunct now. Not very often, but a couple times a year because it's something that I enjoy doing. And at first I thought I was going to throw the baby out with the bathwater, but it's like, no, there are parts of this that I do actually like. And so this is one and I'm gonna keep doing it. But I do just ask for forgiveness when it comes to being flexible with students and making sure they're getting what they need. um, so I think that's probably I would call that a skill. I mean, it's a really soft skill, but being comfortable enough with um, uh, the discomfort of others.
Yes, that's so
And
good.
I've been fortunate enough that my past couple of supervisors have been okay with that approach because they trust me. But yeah, I think that's one that's been important in terms of surviving in academia. But in terms of things like that I pull out that are skills, something that I didn't realize actually until I started the podcast, right? The one that
Hmm.
you were on,
Yeah.
Luna, was really the ability to see where the gaps are in a course just with a few questions.
Mm.
And that's not something that I necessarily would have said was a skill uh, 4 years ago or like when I was trying to get out. It's not something I wrote down like on the list of things I can do, right?
Yes.
But I am finding that it is something that I am good at, and it is something that other people aren't necessarily good at. And so that has been a surprising development out of starting the podcast because I'm seeing myself do it more often, and I'm having to listen back to the
Yeah.
podcast and starting to see my own patterns in really interesting ways.
Yeah. So I mean, it sounds like all of it is pattern understanding, because it's like
Yeah.
pointing out the gaps is about patterns. It's about finding the things that that aren't there, that need to be considered, in the same way that you're
Mhm.
now recognizing that within your own skills, within your own way of working, within what
Yep.
works for you now that didn't
Yeah.
work for you in the past. And maybe recognizing, like, yeah, those strengths and things like that. Has there been
Yeah.
anything that has awakened that in you, either an experience or a person or a perspective, or just meeting people outside of academia? Like, what kinds of things have helped you in recognizing that skill and strength?
I think it's been a combination of things. I didn't like put a pin in it and like know exactly what it was. Like I couldn't name it until I started doing the podcast. But it is something that I feel like I've done for a very long time. And I really notice it when I look at how so I have multiple sclerosis, and that is a kind of waxing and waning and good days and bad days. And I had to start paying attention to my own patterns
Mm.
in how I was feeling,
Wow.
in what I was doing, and being able to build a business around my capacity.
Mm.
And also, like, we schedule it 9 o'clock in the morning, my time, Luna, because I know there are times of the day where I need to go to lay down and take a nap.
Mm.
And so I do.
Yes.
And so being able to recognize those patterns is something from outside
Mm.
that really made me also see that skill inside, if that makes
Yeah.
sense.
And how long, I'm sorry, I don't know a lot about multiple sclerosis. So
Mhm.
how long have you kind of had to have that awareness? Like, how long have you been building that awareness into yourself as well?
Um, so my diagnosis was 10 years ago.
Mm.
And probably so symptoms were definitely at least a year before that.
Oh, wow.
So the past 11 years or so. And I did a shit job of it at the beginning. I'm not gonna lie. That the ability to see and start to think like, oh, I should be paying attention to these patterns, right? Sometimes it's not just I can notice patterns, it's the patterns I should be paying attention to.
Mm.
And so that's not really something that I had, I think, the capacity to do until after I left
Oh,
higher
wow.
education, actually. So it was a driving force for me to get out.
Yeah.
I wasn't paying attention, and I ended up having a relapse. And so in MS, what a relapse is it's another instance of my immune system attacking my nervous system. And so I was falling. I've got new spots on my brain, all that good fun stuff. Um, and that was what was like, I can't sustain what this position is asking of
Yeah.
me, um, because it doesn't account for my patterns.
Yeah. So, I mean, do you see that as something that academia would not be able to do, or just like capitalism in general?
Definitely
Like support.
academia.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I tried to get. So they wanted me to move in state
Mm.
if I was going to be in the administrative position. They also were starting to push. This was after like COVID. They were starting to push all faculty to be in state, even though I had been hired out of state. And the state that this school is in is very, very hot. And with MS, I have heat sensitivity. And so what that means is, so your nervous system is kind of like electrical wire, right? And so it's a gap in the coding.
Mm.
And so heat means that my nerves don't conduct signals as well. So it's like I look like I'm drunk. I start slurring. I don't know where I am. I start to fall. I'm confused.
Wow.
And so, like, again, they wanted me to move and separate from my family. Two, I can't actually move in state because the heat will make it not a life that I want to live when I don't have to actually do that.
Mm-mm.
So they wanted me to do that, and my supervisor was going to have to write a letter every year in order to keep me.
Wow. So it's just a quality of life, like, I
Yeah.
mean, I feel like a lot of things that we used to do after COVID, some things just weren't allowed anymore, which I think is just, I mean, I think for certain people
That's
as
annoying.
well. I'm always looking at my boyfriend going, "What are you doing here again?" Like in the house. Because I thought I was going to have the office when COVID was over, but apparently not. I'm in this comfy chair in the living room. That's fine. And I have a standing desk as well, which is helpful. But yeah, I feel like a lot of things, because I started doing things online, like online office hours. I was telling somebody recently, probably in 2008. And I was using like Adobe Connect to do all that, because a lot of
Yeah.
my students were off campus and they had kids, or, because it was a university where a lot of people are like non-traditional. So I was
Hmm.
like, well, it's fine. We'll just meet online. Like, it's not a big, you don't have to come to my office. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, Adobe Connect is still around. It was
Is
very
it?
Brady Bunch back then. I don't know what it looks like now, but back then in 2008, it was absolutely Brady Bunch style.
Yeah. I remember half the time it wouldn't work, and you had to get, what was it called? Active Pearl. Always, every computer I
Mhm.
had, oh, let me download Active Pearl. I don't know why I did that.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, I feel like it was like a lot of what I did technologically was to help students access
Yeah.
teaching, because when I went to university, the first university I went to was a commuter school, and
Mhm.
because I was kind of non-traditional, and
Yeah.
yeah, and I just don't see why there's and has to be any gatekeeping to any of it. So
No.
yeah, yeah. So you, within that state, then realized actually having my own business might be a better way, or like how, what things got
Yeah.
in your mind? What infected you?
So I thought that what I was going to do is go from higher ed to a W-2.
Mm.
So I bought a course
Oh wow, okay.
and it was an absolute heap of garbage. It was like there was no pathway. It was all like a collection of modules that I think were like different jobs that you could do, but no guidance on like how
Oh,
to make a decision for the type of job that you might want.
okay.
And so at that time, I was also doing a bunch of networking so I could try to figure out what my next step was going to be. And I was started asking after I bought this course and was like, this is horrible. I
Mm.
started asking people, have you bought a course like outside of an institution, like higher education? And I'd get,
Mm.
yeah. Well, how was that? It was terrible. Like 90% of the people that I talked to had a story about a really terrible course that they bought.
Wow.
And so that was around the time that I met you.
Mm.
We met in the Professor is Out
Yes.
Facebook group, and your business coach was, I guess, launching again.
Mm.
And so I was like, well, maybe this is what I do, because clearly there's a gap. Like there's a large gap. And I wasn't seeing like people that were offering help with courses, they were all marketers. I didn't
Uh,
see anybody coming from a learning space
yeah.
or with a background in instructional design that was really helping people create courses. And so that was in the summertime. By October, I had a website and was taking my first client.
Yeah, you're right though. I mean, like they're all about business marketing. So it's like how to that, it felt very kind of like, what is that called? Like a MLM. Like it seemed very much
Mhm.
like, I will show you how to make a course. You join my course and then you can start selling courses, but it's mainly like how to sell your course
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
manipulate people to buy your course.
So, of
Yeah.
course.
And yeah, you're right. So there wasn't like an instructional design element to it at all. And not
Mm-mm.
really like any regulation, which I'm not like, okay, everything needs a regulation, but
This is something that like we know so much about how people learn, right? And that in and of itself is very interdisciplinary, right? There is no single discipline that has contributed more to our understanding of how people learn. And nobody was using it. No, nobody is bringing it in. The one or two people that I had seen that were doing it in more of a corporate way, and so a lot of the courses and programs looked more like uh, cybersecurity training, right?
Mm.
Where you click on the thing and then the video reads to you, and then you click on the thing and then you take a little quiz, and then were you listening on 2 times speed because you're like, yes, I know what phishing is. Please, I am not the reason I have to do this training.
It's so true. Oh
um,
God.
and there are so many different ways to have a course, and I think that's the thing I was seeing, right? Like everybody was doing this video PDF, video PDF. Why? That
Mm.
that's not the only way. That is not the only way to have
Yeah.
a course. There are way more interesting ways to design an activity that is supposed to implement what you've learned.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so interesting, like, because I went from the course that you and I were on to then hiring another business coach after that. And she was located in California. So I went to her retreat as well, but she didn't have a course at all. I spent
Yeah.
a good deal of money, and there
Mhm.
were no courses. And
Mm.
it was Google Docs, sharing some personalized videos, being like, I've created
Mhm.
this thing, have a go at it. It's on, a Google spreadsheet, or
Mhm.
oh, back then it was like, remember Google Drawing or something, like, or Google,
Yeah.
was it some kind of,
Draw. I think
and
it's just called Google Draw, where
was
you
it
could like
Draw?
insert images.
Yeah. And she had things on there and things like that.
Mm.
So, and I was like, wow, like I haven't bought this because she has a course. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
It's
I mean,
very interesting.
even my own course leans very heavily on Google Docs because we need a space to actually do the work and actually
Mm.
fill it in, right? Like, how many PDFs have you downloaded where you did nothing with it because it's not fillable? And I'm not going to waste my ink on, on that.
Yes.
So,
Yeah, definitely. Although I tend to use Foxit, so you can
mm,
always insert
yeah.
text on a on a PDF.
Yeah. I mean, I have Adobe Acrobat Pro. It's just,
Mm.
I feel like that is a barrier, right?
Yeah.
Like that's a barrier somebody put up for you. We happen to know how to get over, around, and under the barrier, but a lot of people don't. And I
Yeah.
think like that, thinking about accessibility in terms of not just thou shalt have captions because if not, you'll get sued, but thinking about it in terms of removing the barriers for
Mm.
people, like that is half the battle. If you can do that and make it so that people can actually finish something because you haven't arbitrarily put up some hurdle,
Mm.
then really that is half the battle.
Yeah, yeah. So do you feel like through your own like life experiences, you've kind of gotten more knowledge of how to remove more barriers, or do you feel like that's something that you've like been taught, or just through interacting with students who've come from, because like community college is like you're getting everybody, do you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
not like Harvard or something.
Yeah. I mean, I had students, my very first class, I had two students living out of their cars.
Mm.
They absolutely cannot go and do this thing on the computer because they're living out of their cars.
Yeah.
And so for me, it was about giving them space in the room when they were in the room with me to just write without a computer, pen, paper. mean, this was 2008, but it was
Yeah.
everybody was like moving to having everything submitted online. I think that was my first and last semester of getting student evaluations on paper. After that, everything was digital.
Yeah, you're right.
Because everything was shifting, even for in-person classes, shifting to using the computer.
Yeah.
So some of it has been trying to be proactive instead of reactive
Mm,
once I learned what students needed. And that is something that's constantly changing, right? Like, I feel like I still have to be reactive sometimes because there's situations I can't fathom, and
mm,
people that show up to learn from me, that there are special things that I need to do for them, and that's fine. That's me being accessible,
mm,
and then that gets built in for the next round in case I ever have somebody that's in a situation that would need this kind of accommodation.
mm.
And so it's just something that I've built and learned from my own students
Yeah.
since I've been doing this. But it also comes out of that desire to really do right by other people.
Mm,
And certain things, like when I first started, so my youngest sister has a hearing impairment. And then in undergrad, I was a reader for a blind professor in the sociology department. So I came in to teaching already pretty sensitive to kind of the accommodations that we expect, right,
mm,
for hearing impairment and for visual impairments. But then there were the other things, like living out
mm,
of your car, or taking care of both your aging parents and your young children at the same time, and how time really is an accessibility issue. So
mm,
it's just kind of been one of those things that's both built from life experience, but also listening and paying attention to the
mm.
people in front of me.
Yeah. And how are you? So it sounds like you came out of academia and immediately started doing research and asking people whether they had done a course. So how do you formalize the information that you're gathering from your current students or like the people who are on your course, clients, or formalizing any of the like research on like courses in general and how they can be improved? Like, do you have any plans like that, or?
So I call myself a recovering academic, Luna, because I can't I can't help myself. So yes, and in a couple of ways. So I have always, from the very beginning, iterated, and I feel like that is an academic skill that we don't talk about enough,
Mm,
because that is what I mean. That's what science is. That's what research is iteration, making it better every single time. So I have used that in all of my free things, in all of my workshops, webinar, like everything I do in my business has been an iteration from that very first client, but really from that very first class I taught back in 2008.
yeah.
So that's the first way I think that I have been doing it. The second way is so this is also how I'm still an academic. In November, I put out a survey because a lot of the statistics that are out there about courses don't come from the small business world or
Mm.
from people who are creating courses for others to buy. They are from higher education and corporate.
Oh.
You and I both know those are three completely and totally different contexts. And so the survey in November, then I'm still writing up the report. And this is how, like, the academics writing cycle is so slow. And it's in part because of us. But that was me gathering information from people that are actually creating and selling courses on the market. Because I mean, I can't trust what Kajabi or Thinkific, like, I can't trust their
Yeah.
statistics. They're trying to sell me something. So trying to do an independent study that I've learned a lot this year about, like, how I was phrasing questions, which is
Mm,
always survey writing is always iterative.
mm.
So I'm getting ready to put out the report in the next few weeks, and then it's something I want to do every year because I feel like we always kind of need that check. And I've learned a lot I mean, some of it was reaffirming things I had a gut feeling about, like, we are talking about a course and you're defining it way differently than than any other
Ah,
industry. And I think
wow.
that's why they're all garbage. But yeah, it's been fun.
Wow. I can't wait to read that report. You'll have to tell me and I'll help disseminate it and send it to the people on my mailing list and everything like that. That would be
Yeah.
amazing. Yeah, because I
Yeah, I'll
think,
definitely send it your way.
yeah. So that was from the perspective of the people designing
Yeah,
and
so I had
selling.
22 people who responded. I did have the forethought to separate them, to segment them at the beginning. Like, do you
Mm.
actually have and are selling a course? And then people that were working toward it. So half. It was exactly half. So out of my 11, those are people that had actually built and sold
Mm.
courses. And it's very like, thinking about the future of course creation was probably the most surprising because it was so varying. And I did some follow-up interviews, and I think it really comes down to how they are viewing and defining what a course is and what it can do for
Mm.
them, right? I think like there's this whole concept of this evergreen courses, right? That you
Yes.
don't ever have to, you set it and forget it. You don't have to touch it again. And people have been burned by those because they're usually the ones that are really, really crappy. Um, but then they turned around and tried to sell it because I don't know about you, but I know that I tend to teach the way that I've been taught until I
Yeah.
started learning how to teach.
Mm.
And I think that that people just see, oh, that's how everybody else was doing it. And so I'm going to do it that way.
Mm.
Um, but there were a couple of former teachers who are now doing courses that answered the survey. And it's like night and day difference because they know, right? They
Yeah.
know the different ways that you can take the things you say on repeat or the things you constantly get asked about and pull them into something that supplements the other work you do, right? Like it doesn't have to be this bit. And this is the way you run the course we talked about on my podcast,
Yeah.
right? But
Yeah.
and you do that because you were a teacher.
Yeah. Yeah. So have you thought about also taking it from the consumer's perspective as well? Because I wonder how many of them, abandon courses and why, and yeah, what they find to be like the best in terms of their own development, but also like what are the deliverables or outcomes that are being expected, because some of them might have clear deliverables, some of them might not have
Mhm.
clear deliverables. And yeah, because I mean, I've been taken in with some of the things that are evergreen where they're like, I can get you to write a book in like 6 weeks, and then publish it yourself. And I'm like, ooh, okay, that sounds good. And then I'm like, Luna, no, 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 don't do that. And at the last minute, I put my credit card away. You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
but that's a
Yeah. So
clear
I
deliverable, right? That's a clear
right.
deliverable. And I bet
Yeah.
not a lot of people even get a book at the end of
Mhm.
that. It's probably
Yeah.
so many people that buy this, and then none of them
Yeah.
have a freaking book.
Yeah. Well, because they didn't mention in the marketing that in order to do this, you need to write for 60 hours a week. Like the expectation of how we get there probably wasn't clear. So, two things.
Exactly.
One, yes, I do that, but just to inform my own course.
Yeah. Yeah.
Two, it's funny that you asked because I am in June, I'm doing a workshop and I haven't yet figured out how to connect it to my services, but I get asked this so often that the workshop is, do you really need that course?
Yeah.
Because I think one of the reasons I only got taken in once, like I've only ever bought one course that was like, oh, I shouldn't have done that, but I didn't know any better,
Yeah.
is I know what to look for
Mm.
in the way that people are communicating, what they're saying, what they're not saying, what they're assuming about me based on what they say on the page.
Yeah.
And it's a whole assignment that I used to teach when I was in higher education. Like I used to teach an assignment to teach rhetorical analysis, and
Mm.
it was an advertisement assignment.
Mm.
And I am taking that and I am converting it
Oh,
to a workshop for business owners.
that's cool.
We're going to identify, well, what problem do you think the course is going to solve? And then we are going to tear apart the sales page.
Yes. Oh, that sounds amazing. I love
Yeah,
that.
I'm excited about it. I still really have no idea how to connect it to what I do, because I'm not going to help people figure out, like, other than this. I don't want to get into the weeds of helping people figure out whether or not things are a good fit.
Mm,
Um, I had in the past thought about being more of the learner advocate and helping people
mm,
get the most out of crappy courses.
mm,
I did ask, do a little bit of market research about that. It was last summer or the summer before, whether or not people would want help figuring out which courses, what they needed out of the courses they've put back on the digital shelf, and going and digging that up
mm,
and then creating their own activities to apply it. Um, because that is another way to
mm.
go about it. But I really think, like, just fixing the core of the problem.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
let's just not have shitty courses.
Yes.
What if we just did that?
Yeah. Well, I think it's maybe it's a way of saying, like, look, I wasn't taught in marketing, but I've been taught in the roots of language. That is
Mhm.
the basis of every marketing thing that you're going to encounter out there. And so if we
Yeah.
come from that perspective, from the root perspective, we are then taking what you're saying, which you've just learned from copying other people, and going, how are you authentically wanting to communicate a thing?
Yeah.
And Katrina's your person for doing that. Do you know what I mean? I think that is like,
Yeah.
because it is a copy paste. It's like copying pasting the terms and conditions. It's copy
Mhm.
paste, people's contracts. Oh yeah, I could just use that. But if you don't understand the root of it, and actually talked to a lawyer one time, because I said to him, this was back like 2021 when I was starting my business, and somebody knew a lawyer, and I was like, he's like,
Mhm.
he'll give you an hour of his time for free, which is insane. But anyway, it was
Yeah.
really, really nice. And he was like, Luna, a contract shouldn't be like, wow, now Luna's a whole different person. The contract should
Yeah.
be written in the language that you would have used with them anyway, but should be checked
Mhm.
by a lawyer to ensure that everything that you want to say and that is going to protect you is in there. But it shouldn't be like, oh, now my lawyer has come in with lawyer speak.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because people are going to be like, whiplash of, wow, I thought I was talking to this person and now I've gotten this contract and it's written in a way where I don't know what I'm signing and I don't know whether I want to sign
Yeah.
it. And
Yeah.
that was incredible because he's not a marketer, but he knew about that kind of, I mean, some people might call it branding, right? But he knew that there was like a way to communicate. And I think it's the same thing as a sales page. It's the same thing as a
Yeah.
LinkedIn about section. It's
Yeah.
the rhetoric behind it. Am I saying this
It
right?
is. Yeah, everything is rhetoric, Luna, everything. So it's the rhetoric behind it, and it's also an accessibility issue, right?
Mm,
Lawyer speak is not plain language, and plain language is what makes something accessible. It makes it accessible to someone that speaks your language as an additional language. It makes it accessible to someone that has a neurodivergence. It just makes it so that people aren't confused about what they're doing, let alone the whiplash. Like, I felt the whiplash, still been able to read and understand what I was signing, but was like, oh, this is unexpected. But yeah, you're very right that it can be applied to the sales page. And so that is how I could connect the two things, like how to, I don't want to get in the market of helping people write sales pages,
yeah.
because I try not to do that, but getting what is in your course onto the page, like, that is sometimes the harder piece, especially if you're trying to fit it into a template.
Mm,
Um, because that's where the copy paste usually comes from, right? They're templatizing
yeah.
or using somebody else's template
Yeah.
for a
Yeah.
thing that's not theirs.
Exactly. Oh, that sounds great. Yeah, I think that's like, I think you can definitely connect it. Yeah. So how do you feel now with your current, kind of like you've got the adjunct, you've got your business. Is that kind of like a good, you feeling more in terms of bringing your full self? Or do you have like also, do you have any tips for people who might be doing things like that? Kind of like I'm in, I'm out, and I've found like a good maybe harmony, maybe not like a work-life balance, but a good harmony to the way that you work like that, in addition to the kind of like ask forgiveness rather than permission.
Yeah. Yeah, I do have a few things that I call it keeping a toe in. So I'm very communicative with my supervisor about how many classes I'm willing to take. In fact, I got to let them know about the fall, but I turned down classes for the summer.
Mm.
I also am a facilitator for the accessibility module for, it's called GSOL, but it stands for the Global Society of Online Literacy Educators. We love an acronym in higher education.
Yes, we do.
But I facilitate their accessibility module for teaching online, and it's because it's things that I love to do. The course I teach, it's not a writing class. It is an information literacy class. And
Mm.
so teaching students, the library, the school where I adjunct is all non-traditional students. They are my community college students just online at a university, because that's the student population that I like to teach. And so once I realized, oh, I can do this my own way,
Mm.
that's when it became more of I don't have to balance the things. This can just be also part of who I am. When I first got out, and I don't know if you felt this too, I felt like I needed to reject all of the it's like moving out as a teenager. Like I needed
Yes.
to reject all of the things because I needed that to not be a part of my identity. But then also I realized that, yeah, but there were a lot of reasons why, one, I got in, and two, I stayed so long, that aren't part of their ecosystem. They're part of me and why I even got in the first place. And so recognizing those things and pulling them along with me, it's always been about the students. I tell my clients, I do this for your students, not you. Right?
Love that.
It's about the students. It's about accessibility. It's about access to the things that people need to make a change, because if they're buying learning, that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to change something.
Mm.
That could be something as little as knowing how to put the copy at the end of a Google Doc so it will copy instead of you having to do extra click steps, all the way to like big transformations
Mm.
that are squishy, right?
Yeah.
Doesn't matter. They're trying to change something.
Mm. Yes. I also did that. I threw out everything. And I was so angry in the way that I would present myself as well. You could tell. Yeah.
So angry, so much. Like that anger fueled me for a long time.
I am hugely motivated by anger, and I do feel it's kind of like part of the process, and you have to trust the process, but you also have to be
Yeah.
curious, as you've said, like throughout this episode, is like there's a curiosity behind it. So yeah, I probably did let go of curiosity for a bit and was just angry and like, nope, not doing it. And, because I got a prize for like the research methodology, the innovative statistics that I've done like my whole time.
Mhm.
And I've been very, very nerdy despite my PhD in psychology and social sciencey, blah, blah, blah. But like every time I'm like, can I just code my own experiment, like cognitive psychology experiment? You know what I mean? So I'm kind of on that side.
Mhm.
And so I let go all of that. I was like, I never want to even touch M plus, R, whatever, never. But it was what you said. I've always been motivated. Like why I had to read I wrote an essay, long story, but I wrote an essay about why I was in my PhD program because
Mhm.
of the way I was being treated. And I wrote like 3 pages and I reread it after I left academia.
Mhm.
And I could tell the anger and hurt that I had in there. But the main aspect was young people and their development. And
Yeah.
now I use data, but not with M plus. I use it with
Yeah.
something where I can build data dashboards, show kids development, and then
Mm-hmm.
be able to learn from it so that they can make better programs for kids in, you know, their mental health and well-being. Or like present it so that they can get funding, resources, whatever it is that that data dashboard can show to somebody. That's
Yeah.
how I can articulate it.
Yeah.
And I know how to articulate it for different people now, probably because of my business experience now.
Right. Yeah, that makes such a big difference. And you are so right about going back and looking at writing we've previously done. I actually had my academic book published after I left. We were already in
Oh, wow.
contract,
Yeah.
but it published after I left. And then my co-author and I are writing a new one called Composing Situations is our working title. But it's getting at a lot of what we've talked about in terms of rhetoric and how to take the things that you know, like having a toolbox that adapts to different situations. So one of the chapters is on a literacy narrative, right? That is a common assignment in a freshman writing course. So I went and dug up, like I want to give real examples of them in the wild. And so I went and dug up my PhD application essay because I knew I had written about literacy in that
Ah,
essay and I pulled it in. But when I reread it, I was like, oh yeah, that is why I went this direction.
wow.
And so seeing the evidence in things that you've written in the past is huge to being able to separate like what higher ed did to you and for you from like who you really are and why you got into it and stayed into it and what drove you. I don't want to use the word passions, but the things that you care about, right? The things that you give a shit about.
Yes.
You can find them littered through
I love
things that
that.
you've done and written.
I think everybody should read their personal statements and see
Yeah.
what they wrote.
I mean, I was like, oh, that semicolon's in the wrong place.
But
Clearly
now that,
they were like, we need to teach this girl how to write.
but when you say that, all I can hear is that Fortran or Pascal program won't run because they all had to end in a semicolon. And if you missed one of them,
Yeah, at least you knew where to look.
that's how I see it. So at the end of the episode, I like to ask everyone the same question. Hopefully, I've prepared you. If not, surprise. What's on your kind of playlist? Because, you know, music was a big motivator. I wrote a whole playlist for myself when I got a divorce, and I still have that playlist, and it is fucking empowering for me even to this day when I listen to it. Same thing, you know, when I got my injury, right? Like every little like major event I've had, I'm like, I need a playlist for this. So what's on your playlist? It could be one song, could be like, yeah, there's one person who was like 5 songs. I can't tell you less than
Yeah.
3.
I find that I choose music depending on how I feel and how I want to feel when the song is over. And so it varies from day to day. But I will say that one that I do come back to often is Fucking Perfect by Pink. Because I feel like she, in that song in particular, she does a good combination of being angry, but also forgiving at the same time. And that I think that might be the theme song of me leaving higher education.
Yes.
So I don't know how to have a playlist, but that might be the theme song. And it's not directed at higher ed because
Yeah.
they are not.
This you probably think this song is about you.
Yeah, that one too, right? Like I could string together.
But it's about you. It's about how it makes you feel.
Yeah,
It's not centered on you. It's centered on me.
yeah, exactly.
I love that. Thanks for sharing that. I'm gonna go listen to it because it's been a while since I've
That's a
listened
good
to it.
one.
Yeah. The other one that I was thinking of was when I was leaving academia, my friend was really into Blackpink. I know it's not the same,
Mm-hmm.
but that K-pop, they had some
Yeah.
really like angry songs, That felt super
Yeah.
empowering at the same time.
Yeah, yeah. There are good ones. And I tend to wake up with a song in my head every morning and it's always different. Sometimes it's Eminem. Like I can't I don't know what I don't remember my dreams, but I wake up with a song and I'm going to guess that that's representative of whatever whatever I dreamt. But yeah, it's always different, but that is one that I have always liked
Yeah.
and that I feel like is a good representation of where I've landed.
Yeah, fucking perfect. Oh, thank you so much for being part of this today. I've absolutely loved our conversation. I think there's a lot for people to pull out in terms of tips, but also the process, the messiness, and the landing, and the continuing curiosity. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me. Such a great conversation.